You might think a watercolor painting this detailed requires a lot of special techniques, but everything we're using today is completely beginner friendly. Just some classic wet into wet washes you already know, a little bit of lifting, and a few wet into dry strokes to add some detail at the end. What makes all the difference is knowing which watercolor technique to reach for at each stage and working one petal at a time. In today's video, I'll walk you through my full method, just 2 layers of color plus an optional underpainting. And because we work petal by petal, there's no mud, no mess, and nothing feels overwhelming about it. I saved the link to my reference image in the description below so you can practice on your own time. And as always, the full real-time recording of this painting is already over on my Patreon, where you'll also find black and white outlines, step-by-step photos, and the full pigment list with color alternatives in case you're working with a different brand. Thank you so much for my patrons for your support. It means everything. Before I walk you through the painting process, here's a quick overview of the materials you will need. I recommend cold-pressed cotton watercolor paper. It dries slowly, giving you the time you need to build soft, beautiful blends, especially on larger petals. Hot-pressed paper will work in a pinch, but remember, it dries fast and can leave you rushing. So go for cold-pressed. It will give you that extra breathing room when we're working wet into wet. For brushes, just 2 pointed rounds, one in size 8, one in size 2, and a 1/2 inch flat brush for lifting. You can adjust the sizes depending on what you have and how large your painting is. I'm using my Botanical brush set made by Escoda, but any similar brushes you already own will work beautifully. Round up your setup with some clean water, a mixing palette, and a tissue or cotton cloth to control the water on your brush. I've listed all my pigments in the description below and will name them as I go. Now let's dive in. I'm gonna start with a light underpainting, and you can see what I'm working towards in the corner of your screen. The overall structure of this painting is beautifully simple, and I want you to hold on to that as we work. Just 2 layers of color plus this soft yellow underpainting at the start. By the end, you'll have a fully realized rose with realistic form, glowing light, and all that lovely petal texture. This underpainting step is optional. Many painters skip it entirely, but it's the secret behind that warm, luminous glow radiating from inside the flower. Think of it as laying down a quiet light source before the color even arrives. I'm using Hansa Yellow Deep from Daniel Smith. Any soft, warm yellow will do, and I'm working mostly in the center of the flower and at the base of few select petals. So I just drop in the color and then immediately soften the edges with a clean damp brush, letting it melt away into the paper. You can add a touch of warm brown in the center as well, where the stamens will eventually sit, just to add a little bit of extra depth. Now let's let this layer dry completely, and then we come back for the first real layer of red color. And this is where the real magic begins. The sequence of steps is actually quite simple, and I will explain it in just a minute and give you lots of tips, but keep in mind it is the most important stage of the entire painting, so we're going to take our time here. I call this layer a map of color. It's also our foundation for lights and darks. And as long as we keep a soft touch and stay within light to medium value range, we'll build a perfect guiding background for all the details that will follow. So you want to work one petal at a time using your larger round brush. Mine is Escoda Perla in size 8. And for every petal, the sequence is always the same. First, I pre-wet the segment, and you can use plain water, but I actually prefer a very diluted touch of color. It lets you see the boundaries of your working shape clearly, so you never accidentally wander outside your pencil lines. In terms of how wet it is, it should look a little bit like this. So a very light sheen on your paper when you hold it up at an angle, meaning fairly wet, but not dripping with water. And then we will use the classic wet into wet technique, meaning adding wet paint to wet surface, applying more saturated version of the same red color using just the tip of the brush. Notice the placement of the color. I'm always adding a lot more at the base of each petal and then just a little bit around the edges. It's not creamy paint, so again, maximum level 5 or 6 on the value scale. And if the pigment spreads too aggressively, too quickly, as it often does with wet into wet technique, we can lift it immediately with a flat brush. So preserving the highlight in the center of each petal is very important. And here I'm using my flat brush to lift off the color, always cleaning it between each stroke to get rid of excess water before I lift the color. After this, and just before the petal is fully dry, you can switch to your smaller round brush to refine the edges. Maybe just add a few thin strokes, mostly around the petal segment. Very lightly, don't overdo it, just enough to boost the contrast. And then we repeat this process petal by petal. And the most important thing to keep in mind, maybe you've already noticed that I'm doing it, is we need to always skip to a petal that isn't touching freshly painted surface. So you'll see me jumping around the flower, always leaving lots of gaps, and that's entirely intentional. It keeps wet edges from bleeding into each other. And then we come back and fill in those spaces once the surrounding areas are completely dry. A quick note on color. Here I'm using Quinacridone Red from Core Watercolors. Technically it's called Pigment Violet 19, often labeled Quinacridone Rose. It's my go-to red for botanicals and portraits. In a few small areas, I've added Quinacridone Scarlet and a little bit of Dioxazine Purple, but for the most part, just one Quinacridone Red, and you can use any of your favorite reds here. In fact, any color from the Quinacridone family of watercolors will work beautifully here. Quinacridone Coral if you prefer a warmer look, maybe Quinacridone Magenta if you love cool leaning pinks. I would probably steer away from cadmiums for this particular work because they tend to shift significantly on drying and can leave your colors looking much more muted and even dull. Quinacridones, regardless of the brand, always stay vivid and vibrant. They're highly light fast and have a lovely staining quality that's perfect for layering. If you love to learn more about watercolor pigments and get more tips on building your perfect palette, I wrote a book called 101 Watercolor Secrets, and I'll be honest, I'm still so touched when people call it a watercolor Bible because it was genuinely the intention behind it. I designed it as an essential reference guide built around the questions that I receive most as an instructor, so fundamental things that make the biggest difference in watercolor practice, but are often hard to find answers to in one place. There's an entire chapter in my book dedicated to watercolor pigment families, in other words, the most common groupings of pigments, and if you ever felt confused about why some colors behave so differently from others, why some granulate, some lift easily, some fade, that chapter will be a real eye-opener. I think you'll find yourself coming back to it again and again. And now that I'm working on this petal, I'm gonna give you another tip. So there's a way to get really creative with your lifting technique by using different sides of your flat brush. The flat side will lift broader areas beautifully. You can reveal an entire highlight just by dragging it across the petal. But if you use the edge with a very light, precise touch, you can pull out very fine petal veins that look completely natural. And because watercolor is transparent, we can't simply paint light over dark. This is why lifting is how we can reclaim that light, and it's one of my favorite effects in botanical art. Just the edge of your brush, curving it in the direction of the petal to create very light, subtle veins on the flower petal. Now to finish this layer, let's add some stamens, and here again I'm using Quinacridone. This is Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet from Daniel Smith. It looks quite dark, but it's still fairly diluted wash. You can see the lovely yellow shining through, and I'm gonna layer it lightly to mark the darker areas between the stamens. Any warm brown you love will work here. Now once this first layer is dry, let's come back to add the details, and here we're only going to use our smallest brush. This is where our painting really comes to life. Working petal by petal, let's slowly build very fine lines, delicate texture, and deeper shadow. The kind of detail that gives a botanical painting that feeling of precision and life. This stage can move quickly, or if you're like me and love a lot of detail, it might take you just over an hour. Either way, it's a very meditative and deeply satisfying work. The technique here is called wet on dry, meaning wet paint applied to a dry surface, and we're really only focusing on two things. First, the shadows. So we already have this beautiful foundation from the first layer, and all we're doing now is amplifying it. In other words, adding slightly darker value of the same red along the edges and at the base of each petal, just a few steps darker than what's already there. The second thing I usually focus on is petal veins, and I'm using just the tip of this size 2 brush, adding a few thin, light lines across the petal surface. Keep it very subtle, just a handful of strokes near the edges is more than enough. Occasionally, you'll find a larger, more complex cast shadow, for example, this one inside the flower where petals overlap. And for these shadows, I pick up the same warm red and apply it generously, blending the inner side with a clean, damp brush. And then I come back to add a few light veins and some texture. That's the sequence, and we simply repeat it across the entire flower. Let me show you another petal up close so you can see my strokes. And I'll mention a few of my favorite color accents for this stage. So in the areas where I want the shadows to feel a little bit cooler, especially along the outer edges on the bottom right, I will add a touch of Dioxazine Purple. It's my favorite watercolor pigment. Any violet or even some soft blue will do a similar job, pushing the red slightly towards blue on the spectrum and adding beautiful depth. And sometimes a petal just calls for a little extra vibrancy, especially on the top left, where there's a lot more sunlight. So that's when I reach for my Opera Pink. This is Pigment Red 122, very vivid, almost fluorescent. I mix it into my Quinacridone Red for that luminous pink edge. And a word of note, Opera Pink, as many of you know, is fugitive, meaning it can fade over time, particularly in direct sunlight. So I plan to frame this under archival glass, which will keep it vibrant for years, and I'd recommend the same if you choose to use this color. After all the petals are done, I decided to add a few final details, completely optional finishing touches, mainly to increase the contrast inside the flower. I went back in along the stamens with some darker brush marks, and here I want to share another tip. Avoid black at this stage. It tends to look harsh and flat against the warmth that we've built. So when I need to push something darker, especially when I paint organic subjects, I almost always reach for neutral tint. It's a remarkable pigment, specifically formulated to deepen any other watercolor pigment, from reds to greens, without creating mud or destroying the vibrancy. And here I'm mixing it with my Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet to create that rich, deep brown for the shadow details around the stamens. And for the very last touch, a soft diluted wash of that same Hansa yellow over the stamens to enhance the warmth glow at the heart of the flower. You'll notice that I didn't add any leaves to this painting, but if you like to explore that, I have a detailed tutorial dedicated entirely to watercolor leaf techniques, from the most beginner-friendly all the way through advanced approaches like negative painting. It's one of the most popular videos on my channel, and I'll leave it up on the screen and also in the video video description so you can find it easily. I hope this rose surprised you a little in the best way. Now I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment below and let me know what flower you'd like to see me paint next. I always love reading your comments and they help me shape what I create on this channel. Thank you for watching and painting with me. I will see you soon.